Welcome to our channel where we delve into the darkest corners of reality. Tonight we bring you three unsettling true prom night horror stories that will send shivers down your spine. These are the nights that should be filled with flashing lights and laughter, but instead something sinister unfolds. Turn off the lights, sit back, and prepare to be terrified. Our first story takes us back to 1987, to the small town of Ridgewood, nestled among the rolling hills of Pennsylvania. The air was thick with anticipation as students prepared for their prom night, held at the grand, historic Ridgewood High School. Among them was a young woman named Jessica, her heart aflutter with excitement as she slipped into her emerald green dress, the one she'd dreamt of wearing since she was a little girl. Jessica arrived at the prom, the gymnasium alive with music and laughter. She met her date, David, his eyes shining with admiration. As they swayed to the music, a slow, romantic ballad, Jessica couldn't shake off a strange feeling, a prickling sensation at the back of her neck. The air seemed to cool around her, and a faint scent of lavender, out of place amidst the perfumes and colognes, wafted past her. She dismissed it as pre-prom jitters, but as the night wore on, the feeling intensified. During a particularly lively song, Jessica excused herself to the restroom, the strange scent of lavender growing stronger. The restroom was empty, eerily silent save for the distant echo of music. As she washed her hands, she glanced at the mirror and froze. Standing behind her, a hazy, translucent figure began to form in the reflection. It was a young woman, her face pale and drawn, her eyes filled with a deep, lingering sadness. She wore a white prom dress, now aged and yellowed with time, and a corsage of withered violets clung to her wrist. Jessica whirled around, but the apparition was gone. Heart pounding, she fled the restroom, the scent of lavender dissipating as quickly as it had appeared. Shaken and terrified, she found David, his brow furrowed with concern at her ghostly pallor. She hesitated, unsure whether to share her experience, but the image of the sorrowful woman in the mirror was seared into her mind. Later that night, as Jessica and David shared a final dance, she noticed an elderly teacher, Mrs. Hawthorne, gazing at them with a melancholic smile. Mustering her courage, Jessica approached her, recounting her unsettling encounter in the restroom. Mrs. Hawthorne listened intently, her eyes filled with a knowing sadness. Many years ago, she began, her voice a low whisper, a young woman named Emily tragically passed away on prom night. She was a bright and beautiful girl, full of life, but a sudden illness took her from us too soon. She always wore a white dress and loved the scent of lavender. Jessica felt a chill run down her spine, realizing that the ghostly figure in the mirror was Emily, forever bound to the night of her untimely demise. From that day forward, Jessica could never shake off the feeling of Emily's presence, a lingering reminder of the prom night haunted by a tragic past. Our next story takes us to the bustling city of Chicago, the year 2001. Excitement crackled in the air as Sarah, a bright and popular senior, prepared for her senior prom. She'd spent weeks agonizing over the perfect dress, finally settling on a stunning crimson gown that hugged her curves in all the right places. Her date, Mark, was the captain of the football team, his charming smile and easygoing nature making him the envy of every girl in school. As Sarah waited for Mark's arrival, a wave of unease washed over her. He was running late, which was unlike him. He hadn't answered her calls, and his texts remained unread. As minutes turned into an agonizing hour, Sarah's concern morphed into a gnawing fear. Just when she was about to give up hope, Mark's car pulled up outside. Relief flooded through her as she rushed to greet him, but her relief was short-lived. Mark seemed withdrawn, his usual cheerfulness replaced with a disconcerting silence. He avoided her gaze, his eyes distant and troubled. Confused and worried, Sarah tried to brush it off, attributing his behavior to a possible fight with his parents. As they arrived at the prom, the vibrant music and swirling lights did little to alleviate the growing sense of unease that clung to Sarah like a shroud. Mark remained distant, barely speaking to her, his gaze constantly darting around the room as if searching for something or someone. During a slow dance, as Sarah rested her head against Mark's chest, she noticed a peculiar detail. The usually warm skin beneath her cheek was ice cold, sending a shiver down her spine. She pulled back, her eyes searching his. His face, bathed in the soft glow of the disco ball, seemed different, almost unfamiliar. His eyes, once filled with warmth and affection, were now cold and vacant. Panic clawed at Sarah's throat. Something was terribly wrong. She excused herself, her mind racing with a terrifying thought. This was not her Mark. She needed to get help, to find someone, anyone, who could help her make sense of this nightmare. As she turned to leave, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air, the music abruptly stopping. Chaos erupted as students rushed towards the source of the commotion, their faces etched with fear and confusion. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, a primal instinct telling her to run, to escape the madness unfolding around her. She sprinted through the throng of panicked students, her eyes frantically searching for Mark, or at least the person who had been pretending to be him. But he was gone, vanished without a trace. The last image Sarah had of him was his face, contorted in a grotesque mockery of Mark's charming smile, his eyes burning with an unholy fire. Days turned into weeks, then months. But Mark was never seen again. The police investigation yielded no clues, no trace of him after that fateful night. Sarah was left haunted by the memory of her vanishing date, the chilling realization that the person she had danced with, the person who had held her in his arms, was not the boy she had loved. Chapter 3. The Ghostly Dance. Our final story takes us to the eerie, mist-shrouded town of Silent Hollow, a place steeped in unsettling legends and whispered rumors of the supernatural. It was 1978, and the gymnasium of Silent Hollow High School buzzed with the nervous energy of prom night. Amidst the swirling lights and pulsating music, a young woman named Mary stood alone, her heart heavy with a premonition of dread. Mary's date, a handsome and enigmatic transfer student named Daniel, had promised to meet her at the prom, but he was nowhere to be found. As the night wore on, her concern morphed into a suffocating fear. Daniel had been shrouded in mystery since his arrival, his past shrouded in whispers and vague allusions to a troubled family history. As the final slow song of the night began, casting the gymnasium in an ethereal glow, Mary felt a cold hand gently touch her shoulder. She turned, her breath catching in her throat. Standing before her was Daniel, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and longing. He was impeccably dressed in a vintage tuxedo, his dark hair slicked back, his handsome features accentuated by the soft light. Relief washed over Mary, quickly followed by a surge of confusion. "Where have you been?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of relief and anger. Daniel offered a sad smile, his touch sending a shiver down her spine. "I apologize for my absence, my love," he murmured, his voice a haunting melody that seemed to echo through the now almost empty gymnasium. "But I had to take care of something important." He led her to the dance floor, his grip firm yet strangely cold. As they swayed to the music, Mary noticed something peculiar. Daniel's feet seemed to glide effortlessly across the floor as if he were floating. She glanced down and gasped. His shoes weren't touching the ground. Terror gripped her heart, constricting her breath. She tried to pull away, but Daniel held her close, his grip tightening, his touch icy against her skin. "You can't leave me now, Mary," he whispered, his voice a chilling whisper in her ear. The lights flickered, plunging the gymnasium into darkness. Panic erupted as screams pierced the air. Mary struggled against Daniel's grip, her heart pounding against her ribs. Suddenly she felt a searing pain in her arm, as if claws were digging into her flesh. Then, as quickly as it began, it stopped. The lights flickered back on, revealing the gymnasium in disarray. Students rushing for the exits in a frenzy of fear. Mary stood alone, her arm throbbing, the imprint of a hand, icy cold and inhumanly strong, burned into her skin. Daniel was gone. Later, Mary discovered the chilling truth about her ghostly dance partner. Daniel had died on prom night decades earlier, a tragic accident claiming his life on the very spot where she had felt his touch. Legend had it that his spirit, unable to let go of his love for Mary, remained trapped within the walls of Silent Hollow High, forever searching for his lost love. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-chilling tales. If you dare, share your own scary prom night experiences in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and stay scared.